Hello,
He's just
Lauren. How are
sleeping.
you?
Hi, good. How are you?
Doing all right. Doing all right. Do you have a good day today?
Yes, I got
Yeah,
laundry done. Did you have a good day?
I did. I did. Uh,
Good.
so I know that we're friends, but tell me a little bit more, just about yourself. What kind of things do you like to do?
Well, I'm kind of like introverted, so I like to read. I have a lot of pets that I like to hang out with, my dogs and my cats and such. So that's kind of something. Oh, and shopping. I like to go shopping.
Yeah,
Yeah. hmm
that's cool. Um, so to segue into to make like a big segue into a more bigger topic. Um,
Yes.
uh, we've had conversations before. Um, about kind of spiritual things. And I think just a more general question would just be, would you consider yourself a spiritual person?
I would think so. Yeah, I would consider myself like pretty spiritual, I guess.
Yeah. What do you mean by that? Like, why do you say that?
I don't know. I kind of like believe in like karma and things like that, and I don't know. I just kind of things like that, like do good and like good will come to you and things of that nature, I guess.
Yeah. Why does that sound like a very, why is that something that you want to believe in?
I guess because it sounds nice, I guess is the best explanation I can come up with. Like I feel like if you do good things, you deserve good things, and if you do bad things, you kind of deserve bad things. So
Yeah.
I guess it just kind of sounds nice. I don't know.
What kind of could you give me an example? Like in your own
Um,
personal life of kind of this kind of karma that you've experienced.
well, one day I was driving and it was late at night and I was going the speed limit because it was dark and I'm doing what I was supposed to do. And this guy was driving behind me and he was like crawling up on me. And he was like obviously trying to speed, but there were like two other open lanes that he could have gotten around me. And so I was kind of like, man, like, what's the matter with this guy? And so he like ended up zooming around me and he got pulled over like right in front of me. And I was like, yeah, that's what that guy deserves.
Yeah.
Trying to speed in the middle of the night in the dark. So kind of like that.
Yeah. That's not nice. Um,
Yeah.
but but I like that. I think that kind of gives a sense of like justice that you kind of just want,
Mhm.
um like the good outcomes to go to the people that do the good things, and then like the bad outcomes to come
Mhm.
to the people that do the bad things. um I
Yeah.
kind of have um so not, it's not karma, but it is something with that idea of like uh, of justice being done. uh we have that,
Mhm.
we've talked before, so you know that I'm a Christian. That's where I come from, uh and that's what I hold to. Would uh are you uh, I mean, do you mind if I share a little bit about that?
Go ahead.
All right. um so we kind of get the sense of justice, um from Christianity when we think of uh the ultimate um good person who did good things, uh who deserved um all this. You say good things, good outcomes should happen to the people who do good things. We think if anybody in the Christian perspective, we think if that should be anybody, it should be Jesus. Jesus, he um is eternal. He existed with God before uh creation, before the universe ever existed. um he was the Son of God, perfectly in relationship with him. And he lived out, whenever he came to earth, he lived out this perfect life. He never sinned. He never stole, or he never killed anybody, or cheated on it. Like anybody, didn't like even get married. In that sense, he kept himself more celibate. But there was even a time that he was fasting for 40 days and 40 nights, and the devil was there with him, trying to tempt him into sin, and he resisted that the entire time. So he never, while being tempted, he never gave into any sin. Not only that, not only did he not sin, but he went out and did such great and mighty works. He cast out demons and healed sick, and we have examples of him raising the dead. So he went out and loved his neighbor. He went out and was kind and was good. Um, but during his life, he would often say things like that he has to die, that he's going to do this, and it will ultimately lead to his death. But then, what's an interesting question is just to kind of ask, like, oh, why did he have to die? Um, well, let me just ask, what do you think about that?
I mean, I guess that kind of like goes against like what I said, like it kind of like is unfair that, like he had to die, and, like if he was like this really like nice guy and he like did everything right and he was like a really good person, like kind of like a horrible thing to have to happen,
Yeah, yeah, that's a good point. He was this ultimate good guy who did have to suffer. We kind of think like, well, like for me personally, if I look into my own life, I go, yeah, there are times that like I suffer. I deserve to suffer for dumb things that I do. Um, uh, but when I think of someone like Jesus who lives this perfect life, I think, oh yeah, that guy does not deserve to suffer for
yeah.
anything that he did. But then uh, we would also say it wasn't like unnecessary. He didn't randomly, he didn't just like come to Earth and he's like, all right, I'm gonna suffer for like no good reason and then like just die. It's like, okay, well, you know, thanks for nothing. Like, why? Necessary.
Yeah.
So but the problem is in order to kind of get to that answer, we'd have to like get much more broader uh context of the overall story of the Bible. And so recently you have I recommended that you listen to like Bible recap videos and things like that, and you have been doing that. And so we talked a little bit about Genesis 1, 2, and 3. We touched on that a little bit, and Adam and Eve in the garden and stuff like that. And so when we go to that the beginning, when we go to Adam and Eve, we saw that God gave them a perfect paradise, that they were given they were allowed to eat of any tree. This they were given this ultimate freedom. You can eat of any tree. Just you can live in this bliss, except don't eat from the one tree of knowledge of good and evil. And the day that they do that, that they would surely die. And then we saw in Genesis 3, we saw Satan come in, and he started tempting Eve and to eat that tree or eat that fruit from that tree, and then ultimately she gave in, and then she kind of passed it off to Adam, and she was like, "Hey, you should eat this too," and he eat it, and then immediately after that, they both, uh, you know, they felt kind of afraid and ashamed, and they went and tried to hide themselves. Um, and if you remember, do you remember what they tried to hide themselves with?
Uh, they said like leaves or something.
Yeah, they're after they sinned, they ran over, and tried to hide themselves with leaves, um, as if the God who created them that could like hide them away or like cover them up. Um, it's like a little kid when you play hide and seek, and they're like, go and hide under the covers. It's like
Yeah.
it's like not really a great spot. Like I could very see, um, like on a much
Yeah.
bigger level. But uh, well, after God sees them, um, this is where we start to see that kind of justice come in, because we see that they disobeyed, um, disobeyed, and then eventually they did die, and that, uh, but what's interesting is like God did not want them to sin. That wasn't his desire. That wasn't, he created the garden as it's for them to live in that perfect relationship, but they chose to go their own way, and live that lifestyle, um, and resulted ultimately in their judgment. Um, and honestly, if you read the story, it seems like Adam and Eve, they're not like bad people. They're nice. Like really,
Yeah.
these aren't like jerks or whatever. They're pretty nice guys. They didn't kill anyone, and we don't know how long they were in the garden. Perhaps they, lived this, like, they did like a bunch of good works and they were like really nice people. But it took only one sin, took only one thing for them to do to result in their condemnation and just to completely separate themselves from God. Um,
Mhm.
and it just to completely remove them from that relationship. Um, but yet, God loved Adam and Eve. I mean, his heart was there for them. He created the garden for them. He didn't after they sinned, he didn't just abandon them. When people frustrate me, I often will just be like, okay, well, forget them. Like it's really easy to
Yeah.
kind of do that. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, like you agree, you find that in your life
Yeah. I
as
do
well.
agree.
All right. Um,
Yeah.
well, here's where we see the next part, that's much more interesting is after they try and hide, and God is, he's all knowing, so he calls them out, and then he, um, gives them their punishment. Um, he ended up, uh, going to Satan, and he spoke of a savior that came, and a savior that would come, and it would crush the head of Satan, and in doing so, it would bruise Satan's heel. And so, sorry, it would crush, sorry, Satan's head, and doing so, the person that comes from the woman, it would bruise his heel. So he would have to get injured. Um, and so, uh, that's what he said to the serpent. And um, next thing you know, after they tried to hide with these fig leaves, God does something unique and interesting, something we hadn't seen before, which is that he gave them new clothes. He saw this animal, this, good animal, not bad, and he killed it, and he took the animal skin and covered them, and that was to give them these new clothes to wear, that uh, they weren't the leaves. That's not a good attempt to cover up what you've done. That's a failed attempt, and it's ultimately dumb. But he gives these clothes because they're real. They can really cover and pay for the sins, because the animal that died, it wasn't like it was just an innocent animal. Um, but that was the cost of their sin. Their sin was that big that it took the life of an innocent animal to go and pay for their sin. So just stopping right there, because I know I've talked a lot. Everything. What are your thoughts on that? And anything that stands out?
Well, kind of like the animal, like being innocent and whatnot. Like, I'm like a really big like animal lover and things like that. But I don't know. I mean, I feel like animals, like they're like different than people, So then, like, I don't know, like that's like normal for them to like clothes out of and things like that.
It's the one for them. I'm sorry. Can you say it again?
Like what you said about like the animal, like having to die for like the clothes, like I don't know, I just feel kind of like normal and like not that it's like, great or anything, but I don't know, I feel like it's pretty like normal for animals to be like made into clothes and things like that, and it wasn't like they like died for like nothing. But it is nice that like even though like they kind of like messed up and they kind of like did what like God told them not to do, like it is kind of nice that he still like wanted to take care of them and wanted to make sure that they were like okay.
Yeah. Um, mainly because it flowed straight from his heart, like because God really did care for them. I mean, he created them and formed them. So um it's a very intimate, very personal love that he has for Adam and Eve, that he doesn't want to lose that relationship. And even though God didn't do anything, it's not on him. He's doing like what um he's doing what he can to kind of bring them back into that
Mhm.
good relationship. Um, and in the Bible, you have that the kind of the life is in the blood, and that uh, there's not a forgiveness of sins without a life. That's the payment of sin. That that sin leads to death, and so if there isn't a death, like we have of the animal, then there is no true payment for that sin. And after that, you had a bunch of people in the Bible in the Old Testament, and they also gave these sacrifices. You had like Adam and Eve, and then you had after them Cain and Abel. Did they ever go over that in the Bible recap? The Cain and Abel story, the two brothers.
One of them killed the other one,
Yeah.
I think.
Um. Yeah. So then they had they gave sacrifices. Yeah, that and Noah and Abraham and Moses and David. Um. So that kind of fast forwards. That's kind of the thought process throughout a lot of the what we have like the Old Testament. Um, and then we jump all the way to the New Testament, where you have like Matthew, Mark, Luke, John, like thing. Um, and then here comes that Jesus, who he comes up and he's born of a virgin and the descendant of a woman, and he lives this perfect life, didn't sin, was perfectly uh, good, and you know here's where people look and they say they look at him. They have this prophet John who looks at him and he goes, "Oh, look, behold the Lamb of God who takes away the sin of the world." Like that's the first thing whenever he goes up on scene. He's just walking and he points out and he calls him a lamb. Um, and this kind of goes back to that question of like, why does he have to die? And it kind of brings that image back of Adam and Eve and that animal that kind of gave that perfect life. Um, and so he's ultimately um, this perfect lamb who spotless and clean and innocent, and he has to shed his blood so that people can be covered. So that's why he kind of surrendered himself to Jewish leaders and the Roman soldiers, and he was suffered and tortured and carried the guilt of humanity, and uh, he had to carry that all on his shoulders, and ultimately died. Right before he died, he cried out, "It is finished." At that point, he means like the debt has been paid, that the sin debt, it's been done. And he bowed his head and he died, and that was it. But then what would kind of separate us from a lot of other religions is that we call the resurrection. 3 days later, he came back. For the next 40 days, he went around to his followers, and um, he appealed to 1 Corinthians 15 says he appeared to more than 500 of them. And then he went up into heaven. And we know that he will return as judge one day to deliver that justice that you talked about at the beginning. It's this true justice where he really will punish those who do wrong, and he really will show grace to those who do right. Um, except the only thing that's different, I would say, is that in karma it's really easy to see myself as the guy who does a lot of the good things. Um, and so, hey, I deserve this kind of reward, the good outcomes to happen to me. But the Bible reverses that; it flips it on its head, and we see um, Jesus, who is perfect and good, and yet he's the one who suffers, and he's that spotless lamb who doesn't deserve to suffer, but he suffers anyway, and he gives up his life so that, for me personally, because I believe in Jesus, that for me, it's upside down. I get to be, even though I deserve it, I sin and I rebel and I'm dumb and I do bad things. Um, God treats me with so much kindness and grace and love. Um, uh, Ephesians 1, book of the Bible, says that the believer is blessed with every spiritual blessing, and that I get to say that of me. So what are your thoughts on that?
Um, hang on. I lost you for a minute, so I missed like the last like couple of words that you said. It
Oh,
like exited out for a second.
oh no. Um, just that I was saying
Yeah,
that
I know. It closed out.
what was the last thing you heard me say?
The last thing that you said was how like Jesus, like he didn't deserve to die, and you said like he was like a spotless lamb, and like and that was the last thing, and then it kind of closed out the thing.
Uh, well, just that he was that sinless lamb that didn't deserve to die. And where that sense of justice is
Uh-huh.
there, but it's flipped on its head, where instead of it being like karma, where the good outcomes happen to the good people, the bad outcomes happen to the bad people.
Mm-hmm.
Jesus is getting the bad outcomes, even though was that spotless, perfect lamb. And
Yeah.
for me, I get to be treated. It's the other way around. That although I'm the guy who is dumb and stupid and deserves um, punishment and deserves the consequences of my actions.
Mm-hmm.
God is gracious, he's kind, he's loving towards me, and he treats me uh, as if I was that perfect, spotless lamb, as if I was perfect and innocent. Um, and he shows just a bunch of love to me. And so that's I guess that would be is that the part that you missed?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So then what do you think about that?
I guess like that kind of is like a better thing than karma, it sounds like, because I guess like for karma, like if you like mess up or you do something bad, like something bad is gonna happen to you. But I guess with like Christianity, like if like you mess up, like you like kind of get like forgiven in a sense, and you're still kind of like, I don't know, treated like nicely, and you're still like given love and everything.
Yeah. Yeah. Often we kind of want to we talked about this the other day that we kind of want our sins to like balance out. And so when like it comes to karma, I feel like I'm always the guy who's like, oh man, well, I'm like the good guy who deserve all the good outcomes. We both work at a restaurant, and when we don't get tipped or we got stiffed on something, it's like, oh, but I deserved, that good
Yeah.
tip, and there's that sense of justice there. And so yeah, it's but often we kind of are in a spot where we want we wouldn't I don't think you would say knowing you wouldn't say something like, "Oh man, I'm perfect. Like I deserve all the good outcomes ever."
No.
No, but we're in this like good sweet spot, where it's like, well, I don't deserve like all the really bad things, but I don't, I'm not perfect. So like I'm in this good
Yeah.
spot. Makes sense. And it kind of like
Yeah.
wants our good deeds to outweigh our bad deeds.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, okay, well, I'm like 60% good. And that's like more than half. So I'm like a bit of good area. Um, but the Bible kind of flips that upside down and was like, no, it's our bad deeds are more serious than that. They're uh they're disastrous. They're evil at its heart. Are there any other um thoughts about that um those are the consequences of sin, but yet the good news um that we have this word gospel in the Bible, and it just means good news that Jesus came to give that perfect life. That spotless lamb came to die and to um, really give up his own perfect life for um, sinful humanity. so that we might be treated like that perfect lamb. We might be treated with as if we were innocent. Any other thoughts? Anything
Yeah.
that stands out that you want to speak to? Anything like that?
Um, I guess like it kind of, I don't know, it kind of like seems like sad that like, I don't know, like now like we get to like, I don't know, like sin and like be forgiven, but like Jesus, like he like had to die to do that. That's kind of sad.
Yeah, definitely. I uh reading through the Gospels are really sad, but there's this movie which is like it's like really popular. It's known as like the only rated R Christian movie, which is this movie Passion of the Christ. And there it really gives like a it's like 3 hours, it's like 2 hours of Jesus getting beat up. It's like you just
Oh wow.
watch it get tortured um and it's just hard to watch. Like they're just really nailing on him and
Yeah.
just going crazy. So it does, yeah, it's sad. Um Especially because like, oh, that guy, if anybody, deserves to be nice, it's not him. Or like anybody deserves to be treated nicely, it's not him.
Yeah.
It should be somebody else.
Yeah.
Um yeah. Well, um I appreciate you coming and talking with me and letting me share this thing. I think what you had to say about like justice, that kind of that perspective, I think is really, really good. Um, and then I hope that that would just lead you and find you to see where justice really lies. Ultimately within God. That would lead you to Christ. Again, not something you have to do today. Decision on your own. We've talked about that before, but um, I appreciate you being willing to take the time out of your day to come and talk to me. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I'll see you later.
Okay.
All right. Adios. Bye.